Hey y'all, welcome to the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. I'm Judson Carroll and I'm an herbalist. I'm also a wild crafter, a gardener, and herb grower. I'm coming to you from high atop the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee line, overlooking the Pisgah National Forest. Absolutely surrounded by the bounty of God's green earth. I spent most of my life wandering these mountains and learning about plants from the old-timers and all sorts of characters. On this show, we'll talk about herbs and how to use them, how to find them, how to grow them, how to make preparations. We'll talk about a lot of things. We can also talk about permaculture, homesteading, foraging, and living off the land. Most anything, really. You can email me at southernappalachianherbs@gmail.com if you have a question or a comment. You can also contact me through the Grow Network, where I'm a regular contributor and a moderator for the forums. And my blog is, of course, southernappalachianherbs@blogspot.com. All right, y'all. I'm going to sit my guitar down and let's talk about herbs.
Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. I hope you had a chance to attend the Christian Herbalist Guild conference yesterday. Had a great time, got to meet some really good people, made some new friends and contacts, and I think this is really going to turn into something. The Christian Herbalist School, I think, has a lot of potential, and I think the Guild does as well. You know, if you've read my book or you've heard me talk about my book, The History and Practice of Christian Herbal Medicine, you know that herbal medicine actually has a very vast, deep history as practiced by Christians for almost 1,500 years or so. All the hospitals in the Western world were operated by Christian organizations, mostly the Catholic Church. After, the Protestant Reformation, some were operated by the Church of England and such as that. The medicine used was mostly herbal medicine, and for all these, neo-pagan, New Age folks to run around and act like Christianity is somehow incompatible with herbal medicine and has been trying to stamp out natural methods of healing for the last 2,000 years, is absurd on its face. I mean, it's just the big lie. They tell it, they believe it themselves because someone told them, and of course they've never looked into the hospitals run by the Benedictines. They see the word, officinalis at the end of the word, at the end of an herb, the name of an herb, the Latin name, and they don't understand that that's because it was in the officina, the apothecary of those monastically run hospitals. They talk about how Christianity was persecuting women, and especially women who are herbalists as witches. Meanwhile, one of the doctors of the Catholic Church, one of the most respected and revered of all saints, is Saint Hildegard von Bingen, probably the greatest herbalist ever lived. What they're saying is stupid because they're ignorant. So when you check out an herbal school or you read a book by an herbal author and they make those broad statements about how Christianity accuses people who use herbs of witchcraft and all, it's lies. Now, it's lies usually based out of ignorance. As I explained in yesterday's conference, the thing that got me on researching the history of herbal medicine in the first place was picking up a book that said Hippocrates had recommended a certain herb for a certain condition. And I thought, I don't remember that. And I pulled up the Hippocratic Corpus, grabbed my copy. Nope, not mentioned. In fact, Hippocrates actually only used a handful of herbs. Another book by a very respected author said that Galen had recommended certain herbs for a certain condition. And I'm thinking, no, I don't remember reading that because I'd read the entire library of Galen's books that have been translated at least into English, the Loeb Classic series, which is the classic scholarly collection of the ancient Greek and Roman authors. And no, it wasn't in there. So I called up the head of the classics department down at the University of Georgia, and I said, look, am I missing something? You're the expert on the classics, on Hippocrates, on Galen, etc. For those of y'all that don't know, not only is the University of Georgia where I went to college, um, but it has a fantastic reputation for classical literature and learning. Wheelock's Latin, the main classic textbook on learning Latin, was written by a professor there at UGA. So UGA really prides itself on its classics program, and it's one of the finest in the country, if not the world. And I asked the professor, and he said, I'm not aware of those writings. And I went back, I said, haven't you read everything Hippocrates ever wrote? He said, yes, I have. I said, so you're saying that this person is lying? And he said, well, what usually happens is one author will quote another author. And over 100 years, 200 years, they end up citing each other and get so far away from the original sources that these myths are created. And I said, well, what about Galen? And he said, look, if Galen ever said that, it is in either one of his lost writings, and the person who wrote this has no idea what they're talking about, or it's one of his writings that were never translated into a modern language. There are actually some interesting Galen writings. He wrote a lot. He dictated is what he did. Because particularly Galen was popular among the Arabs after the Greco-Roman era, and they translated his works from Greek into their various languages of these Arabic tribes, I guess you would say. Not, excuse me, not all of them are written in a language that is spoken by modern people of Arabic nations, and a lot of them never were translated to a modern language. So he referred me over to the head professor of the history of medicine. She's very well recognized for that. And I asked her, and she said, here's a textbook I recommend. She didn't give me any original sources. I'm not criticizing her. This is the textbook she used in her course. I went through the textbook. It was not citing original sources. It was citing other authors maybe 50 years before then, and then 50 years before then. You got to go back to the original sources. Otherwise, someone can just tell a bald-faced lie and everyone believes it. And unfortunately, that's exactly what has happened in herbal medicine. Most of, I'll say 99% of herbal schools are totally far left. They're more interested in, you know, gender equity and transgendered celebrating gay stuff, basically, and woohoo witchy stuff than they are actually concerned about herbal medicine these days, honestly. And I mean that's really sad. And when it comes to the history of herbal medicine, they just act like Christianity never happened or has been opposed to herbalism, and that's false, blatant lies on its face. In fact, the main time when people were accusing herbalists of witchcraft and such was after the so-called Protestant Reformation, say from 1500s England to early 17, well, maybe mid 1700s America, and that's because the guilds, the doctors, the apothecaries, the pharmacists of the time, they were threatened by people who were doing home medicine, and they would accuse them of witchcraft. It was that simple. Even Nicholas Culpeper, because he translated the apothecary handbooks from Latin into English so the common man could have access to it, was accused of witchcraft. They tried to, have him burned. And, had he not been killed in the English Civil War, he could have faced a witch trial. So the Catholic Church never did that, and the Catholic Church was the only Christian church for quite a while until the Greeks split off, and the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church were the only Christian churches at all until the mid 1400s. So I mean, they're just blatant anti-Christian lies. They'll blame the Catholic Church if you're a Protestant, and they think they're going to get some traction with you. They'll blame the Catholic Church if they think you're Catholic because they hate the Catholic Church more than anything else on earth. But they are blatant lies. In fact, how did we get quinine? Well, the Jesuits, who are a monastic order, the Order of Jesus, there's been some political corruption in their orders in modern years. I will not deny that. But they were once one of the most evangelical and boldly Christian conservative religious orders of all, and they were also a lot of them great doctors. And they discovered quinine in Peru. No one knows. Some say it was introduced to them by the natives of Peru. Some say it was found by accident when the quinine, a limb of it, fell in some fresh water, and they noticed its properties in lowering malarial fever. That's the truth. I mean, that's the truth of herbal medicine. When the these priests and monks came to America, they were very, very interested in learning about herbal medicine from the natives, not only for the goal of healing people, which was, of course, their goal as priests and monks. They had taken vows of poverty, but the sponsors of these expeditions were looking for new exports. Sassafras was one of the most valuable exports from America. Uh, Sarsaparilla was one of the most valuable exports from South America. This was big business aligned with good motives, and no, they were not. They were not executing or persecuting people for using herbal remedies. Now, that's not to say they were good with hallucinogens. They were definitely not good with hallucinogens. But as far as herbs for sicknesses, yeah, they very pure motives mixed with very well, actually, very good business motives. There's nothing wrong with making a profit. Concerted self-interest is the most equitable economic system on earth. I make something of value, you buy it because you want it. You have something you want, and I make a living. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the other problem in herbalism today, is it's being taken over by a bunch of freaking communists. Well, you all know me. I'm outspoken, I'm bold, and I am utterly opposed to communism and socialism, and proudly Christian, and will defend my faith and my politics to anyone because I know I'm in the right, because I've actually studied history, because I actually have a brain cell. A lot of these hippies don't. I'm sorry. They've taken a few too many drugs and spent a lot more time in drum circles around Asheville than they should have. But anyway, even Stephen Herod Buhner, of all people, this was something that came up in the conference. Not a Christian, by no means a conservative. Really, he's written some really false statements and blatant slanders against, especially the Catholic Church. Great herbalist, one of the very best herbalists of all time. He died recently, and just before he died, he published a statement condemning this woke movement that was infecting herbal schools that cared more about someone's gender and race than their knowledge of herbs. And my word, they turned on him. And he's like one of the godfathers of American herbal medicine. I mean, he's up there with Susan Weed and Rosemary Gladstar, Daryl Patton. Michael Moore would have been in that category. Seven Song. I mean, these are the people, probably the best known herbalists in America, and Stephen Buhner was probably the best written herbalist in America. Serious background in science. I mean, his uncle was, I believe, a Surgeon General of the United States. I mean, this was a serious guy, even though he was a long-haired hippie leftist, and he went after the whole woke movement, and they basically tried to destroy him. And I hate he had to go through that just before passing away, because he couldn't have been happy about losing. I mean, I've been there, friends turn on you, stab you in the back. I worked in politics. I don't think he had ever been in that situation, and I know how hard. I know how hard that is. If it doesn't kill you, it will make you stronger, and I hope that didn't attribute to his death. I really do. But anyway, anyone that says the way to cure mental illness is to have your bits cut off is not and has no place working in either um, allopathic or herbal medicine. That's lunacy, and I'll say that just straight out. Um, that's nothing more than feeding the medical industrial complex. That's nothing more than making a lot of money for big pharma, for the hospitals, the surgeons, and the so-called psychiatrists and psychologists that, what was that little meme going around? If your genitalia doesn't define your gender, how does having it cut off affirm your gender? Right? Yeah, it doesn't. It actually, most people who do go through that surgery regret it. Many of them commit suicide. Most of them live on depressants, antidepressants, and pain medication for the rest of their lives. They're not happy. The only people who are happy are the people who made a profit on it. So, anyway, let's get on with the show. We will talk about turmeric today. Turmeric's a great herb, very popular these days. You probably heard a lot about it. But first of all, in last week's show, I made passing mention of my grandmother's potato salad recipe, and everybody wants it. Okay, I probably shouldn't share a family secret, but it's really very good. And everyone's is going to be different because you do this very much to your taste. Now, the first thing is my grandmother made her own homemade pickles. She mainly made bread and butter pickles or other sweet style pickles. She liked sweet pickles. Of course, my taste is more dill pickles, but so that was a key ingredient. So um, if you go to the store, look for a sweet pickle, bread and butter pickles specifically. Um, if you're canning your own pickles at home, her favorite, I think, was besides the bread and butter, was the 7-day pickle. I think that's an old. You could probably find it in Farmer's Almanac or the Ball Canning Guide. Any of the old books will have that. It's a vinegar and sugar pickle essentially. A little coriander in the bread and butter. I don't really remember much spice in the other one, but quite good. And her taste did lean more toward the sweet than mine do. So she would peel her potatoes. I never peel my potatoes. Leave it up to you. Boil your potatoes just as you would to make mashed potatoes. Do not let them get waterlogged. Cook them until they're done, drain them, mash them. She would then mix in mayonnaise, chopped pickle, mustard, chopped celery, and chopped onion, a boiled egg or two mashed, salt and pepper to taste, and usually a little chopped pepper, whether it's bell pepper, banana pepper, something like that. Mix it all up, taste it, adjust as you go. It's a classic Southern potato salad. It's a um, mustardy, a little vinegary, a little the mayonnaise makes it nice and rich. The real secret is adding some pickle juice. So anyway, just do it a taste, and then you can't go wrong. It's good stuff. All right, so now let's get into turmeric. Turmeric is it's a relative of ginger, and been used a lot. I would say it probably has been used in Ayurvedic and ancient Chinese medicine much longer than it's been used in any kind of Western medicine. The the Greeks and Romans were real big into ginger, and another another of its cousins. I can't remember, Zedawari. I can't remember that you don't see very often, but there actually are three members of this family, all of which have some good medicinal properties. And interestingly enough, this herb was used quite a bit in monastic herbal medicine of the Middle Ages. Turmeric, in fact, is even included in the Great Swedish Bitters. And it's not only in the ingredients of the Great Swedish Bitters, but specifically in theriac. Theriac being that ancient antidote for all poisonings and insects and serpent stings, that really is the original bitters or panacea recipe, going back to an ancient king. I think it was Mithridates who came up with it. It's often called Mithridate because it's attributed to him. He was very afraid of being poisoned, so he came up with a universal remedy to poisons, which is the ancestor to many, many, many herbal bitters formulas and formulas to treat colds and poisonings and such as that remained popular well into the 1900s in England. And now, of course, the Swedish bitters, thanks to Maria Trebin, has made a good comeback, and I think it's fantastic. I love the Swedish bitters. I take them every day. So, although turmeric does not appear in older Western herbal books, it was used at least by the Middle Ages, and it probably came into the Asian and Indian tradition around 2600 BC. So this is really an old herb, okay? Its use is old, at least. I mean, everything is old, but people knew about it a long time ago. And it may have been that ginger became popular more among the Greeks and Romans and such, simply because it has a better flavor, and they just didn't recognize the value of turmeric right away. And as a pigment, they were using saffron. They were getting their saffron out of Turkey and such. What do they need? What do they need a good, orange yellow dye for in their foods, coloring? But turmeric is essential. It's the essential spice in curries and many delicious dishes. According to the Herbal Encyclopedia, I believe this is the Cloverleaf Farms Herbal Encyclopedia. You can find it online. In Chinese medicine, turmeric is used for chest pains or pain in the rib, abdomen, or liver area, for nosebleeds, vomiting and bleeding, and heat stroke. The rhizome is often also used to treat certain types of tumors and in liver disease. Chinese research has proven zedawari, it's an old name for turmeric, its use in reducing cervical cancer and increasing the cancer-killing effects during radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Very interesting. In Ayurvedic medicine, turmeric is used for inflammation, wounds and skin ulcers, itching, stomach complaints, flatulence, conjunctivitis, constipation, ringworm, and colic. In India, zedawari or turmeric is used for loss of appetite, tuberculosis, wounds, leukodermia, fever, bronchitis, and asthma, but it is used mainly as a stomachic for digestive problems and as a general body tonic. Although turmeric does seem to have some use in Greek medicine, at least by 1100 AD, St. Hildegard von Bingen was using it and wrote of turmeric as also as zedawari 7 times in her classic work Physica. She often mixed turmeric with ginger and cloves and other spices in her remedies. Miss Grieve said of turmeric, which by the way I have growing in pots because it does not overwinter in my area. I have to bring it in. Medicinal action and uses. Turmeric is a mild aromatic stimulant, seldom used in medicine except as a coloring. It was once a cure for jaundice. Its chief use is in the manufacture of curry powders. It is also used as an adulterant of mustard. It's actually what makes French's mustard bright yellow, by the way, just a little turmeric. Tincture of turmeric used as a coloring agent, it dyes a rich yellow, etc. But we know it these days mainly for its anti-inflammatory properties. It also has antiviral properties, so it's a really good herb to have around. It's, as I mentioned last week when we were talking about linden or tilia basswood blossoms, Susan Weed's done a lot of research on this, and she said that linden blossoms seem to work better as an anti-inflammatory, especially for arthritis and such, in people of Anglo-Saxon heritage than does turmeric. Okay, I have used turmeric quite a bit, like knee injury, help bring down the inflammation. I don't know. I don't see the great. I have a lot of muscle inflammation, from old back injuries. Doesn't seem to help me a lot in that regard. I think I want to try some linden flowers, see how that goes. I am about a third English, so that could have something to do with it. The reason, though, if you've tried turmeric before and you didn't get a great response, it may be that you're using it wrong. And it's very simply this: turmeric needs to be combined with a natural fat and black pepper to be properly processed by the liver. Unless you take some fat and pepper with it, you're not going to get, you're only going to get about 10% of the benefits. Also, the oil of turmeric, I cannot remember the name of it right now, Turmerol or something, is much more potent than just the powdered turmeric. But always a natural fat. Now, it can be olive oil, it can be sesame oil. Sesame oil is especially good for the liver, and taken first thing in the morning along with something sour, it actually helps purge the gallbladder. It can help prevent gallstones and such. So that's a really good practice, especially for women, to eat a dill pickle and have a teaspoonful of sesame seed oil first thing in the morning, with a cup of coffee, cup of tea. Um, if you don't want a dill pickle, you can get a spoonful of sauerkraut. You can fix yourself a little salad with a vinaigrette dressing. I mean, whatever you like. I just particularly like dill pickles, so that's when I think to do that in the mornings when I'm sometimes you just wake up and your stomach doesn't feel quite right, and something sour just really helps. So a little sauerkraut, a dill pickle. It's a good time to take your turmeric because you can get you that natural fat. Take a pinch of black pepper along with it, and your liver processes it, and you're going to get a lot more results. Another good thing to combine it with is cod liver oil. Cod liver oil is my favorite anti-inflammatory fish oil. So if you combine your turmeric and cod liver oil and a little bit of black pepper, I have noticed that does help with muscle and joint inflammation. Very good. Can be kind of hard to find a good source of cod liver oil these days. It's fallen out of favor, and people just want to use fish oil. Okay, fish oil is cool, but I actually do prefer cod liver oil. I think it's much more effective than your standard fish oils. And it has a great history, and it's really interesting how they used to make it by putting the cod in barrels, and it would break down, the oil would float to the top, and that was a home remedy. So it really has been a home remedy for hundreds, if not thousands of years. That's actually not very different from the way the ancient Romans made garum. They would take their fish and they would salt it and let it ferment and break down. And garum was the ancient fish sauce, just like we use fish sauce in Thai food, or maybe like a little Worcestershire sauce. It's got anchovies in it. Well, garum probably originated about the same time as cod liver oil did in like Norway and Scandinavia. So good stuff. Good stuff. Turmeric is antioxidant. These dual actions make it very against inflammation and antioxidant, make it useful against cancer, heart disease, and arthritis. Turmeric helps wound healing and lowers cholesterol. It's good for liver health and stimulates digestive secretions and blood supply to the digestive organs. Now, there's a book I've mentioned before, Lost Book of Herbal Remedies, horrible, idiotic title, but very good book if you can get a copy. They don't always cite their sources, as I go to such pains to do, but they have a good article, a good entry, I should say, in there. They said turmeric improves brain function and lowers the risk of brain diseases, including Alzheimer's disease and depression. Curcumin, that was the word I was looking for, curcumin, can increase the levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which is a growth hormone for the brain. Many brain diseases, including Alzheimer's disease and depression, are linked to decreasing levels of BDNF hormone. Increasing BDNF levels with curcumin can effectively delay or possibly reverse many age-related brain function diseases. By increasing BDNF, curcumin may also improve memory and cognitive performance by increasing the growth of new neurons and fighting degenerative processes in the brain. Alzheimer's disease is characterized by a buildup of amyloid plaques in the brain. Curcumin crosses the blood-brain barrier and helps clear these plaques. Long-term use is required. Although standardized extract of turmeric curcumin may be more useful than other forms taken in capsule form, I think the best way to make use of turmeric is to use it regularly in food and beverage. I love curries, but I also use it in soups and chili, and everything from kimchi to chicken pot pie. An easy way to have a dose of turmeric is in my warming spice tea that I mentioned before, made from a half teaspoon each of turmeric, black pepper, ginger, and cinnamon, with the addition of a clove or two, ground. And, also, I'm a sausage fanatic. I love to make my own sausage. I love a good hot dog or a bratwurst. So um, you can get some turmeric in your mustard that way, but it's not going to be very much. I put a lot of turmeric in my kimchi, which not necessarily traditional, but I like it, and that makes an excellent hot dog topping. Um, Put some turmeric in your chili sauce if you make a chili to go on your hot dog. Very traditional in North Carolina to have chili on your hot dog and your hamburger. Or you can just dust it over the onions. It's good. Um, it's great. Turmeric is really good, remarkable, in fact, in a liver pate, whether it's chicken, duck, or goose liver. Really very good. And of course, you've probably heard of golden milk, which is just another way to utilize turmeric. When I make that, I actually like to, simmer some turmeric in my milk and add some molasses. I like that combination. It's very good. So, however you take your turmeric, enjoy it. It's flavorful and good for you. So, y'all, that's going to wrap up today's show. Have a good one, and I will talk to you next time.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, do your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.